I think we're getting too much oversharing.
Sorry.
Parking.
Actually, I wanted to bring it back to the committee, if there's other areas that I didn't cover that we should be talking about.
No, I think that's good. I mean, are we gonna talk about some of them, like parking?
Well, I'm hoping to go through the list.
Yeah, I'm finished.
Your point, did you miss anything?
From Public Works.
Joe and Bernie, did he capture all of the?
Well, did we talk about
We didn't
leaf
talk
and
about
brush? I mean, going where angels fear to tread?
Well, we did
We did.
talk about it, and, you know, the fact is, we could cut leaf and brush, but, for one thing, all you're doing is pushing it back on the taxpayers. The people who have used the service still have to, you know, will still have their leaves taken away, and it's probably less, there are communities going to collecting it as a community rather than having individuals do it, because it's environmentally better to have one main pickup rather than, you know, it's like the old township garbage. If you've got garbage trucks going through your community, picking up different households on different days, it's, you know, not safe, it's not environmentally friendly.
I would just supplement it to say that we talked about, even if you were to cut back sort of on the pickup, it doesn't really get savings, right? I mean, I think that's where,
We'll
that's
do
not
other
your-
things.
Unless you.
I'm sorry?
We'll go do other things.
Yeah, it just seems like work expands. I mean, you have to combine it with a real change in policy. I think, Bob, right, in terms that you're not gonna respond when somebody calls in and says, I've got this, you know, like they have a very rapid response. Public Works, like, has great is out rapidly responding to things. And we have to change that culture, educate the public that we're changing that culture. I just think we pushed it,
But
we
then
didn't
you
feel like there was.
also don't, you'd have to almost concurrently bid out your snow removal. Because if you really wanna cut public works, if you don't wanna pick up leaf and brush, you're also not gonna have people to do snow removal in the other
Right,
season. So you'd have to bid that out.
I mean, you guys,
Do you not
I would
wanna
love
be-
Public Works to revisit, but like, we didn't feel like there were.
I've definitely changed my mind on this because of the reality, and I think what you're saying is exactly accurate. I mean, I don't have any other thoughts.
I
Public Works, they do a great job.
But
mean,
I
they're
just,
gonna-
No, I mean, they're
I
also
used to think
victim
it was
of their own
crazy that we
success.
pick up
Good
leaves,
job.
like, why do we pick up leaves? Why don't people just take care of their own leaves? But
Environmentally, yes, the leave your leaves is where we should be going, but that's just not where people are.
some people can't, and
Right.
it's just not.
Yeah, they're still gonna.
And like Joe said, I think there was a town, I mean, I don't know, it definitely is, there are some ways in which it's worse for the environment because of the cars. And, like some towns, maybe it's in another state, because I was reading about this, like they had to get a permit to stop doing it because it was accepted that if they stopped doing it, it would become privatized. And not only would it be more trucks going around, but the private people don't have to compost. They could just put it in the landfill, right? So that would be another reason that
And ours does, it does.
we do compost ours.
Right.
I would say though, it seems like, for instance, a bit of an anomaly in providing the service. So I think it's still worth a look if West Windsor doesn't do it, if Montgomery doesn't do it, if all these other towns don't do it.
They don't do leaf pickup?
Or they don't do it, I think, as often
They
as we
do
do.
not
And I know
do it to the
Montgomery
extent
doesn't
that
do
we
it.
do.
I think it's a different issue, it's a service, the level of service issue, it's not gonna be a cost savings. Well, maybe a minor, it's really an issue of, do we really need to continue to do the service at this level or not?
You know, they're also different communities. We have old sections with a lot of trees and
Yeah.
narrow
Yeah.
streets and
Yeah.
parking on the streets.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I agree.
they have more open space, bigger lots, more woods to blow the leaves in. But this is also on our goals list, looking at this, and I really think we ought to take it off. Public Works has talked about this every year.
We talk about it way too much.
Like, if we aren't gonna pull the service and it looks like we're not gonna do it, take it off the goal list. We have talked this, you know, till we're blue in the face, and we keep going over and over it, and.
That's where I've kind of come to that too. I used to.
We've got other things to
Wanna
talk
change
about
it.
and think about. I mean, I do think there are changes we can make around the edges, service, always improving efficiency, that sort of stuff, but this idea of revamping the leaf collection, again, we've done this every single year, talked about this, you know.
There are towns that do more, where Heather's from, Scarsboro, because
Scarsdale.
Scarsdale, yeah, they they do it way
They
more
come
than we
right
do.
And Lawrenceville does a great job too.
Oh, the garbage, they come back to the door and get it.
Really?
Yeah.
So we
Tuxedo.
You wanna talk, you wanna talk about the parking revenue?
Yes, I think we should talk about parking.
Is that increasing meters and increasing our garage? or-
We'll be looking at both the garage and the meters.
So-
And we need to look at them simultaneously. One of the reasons, since we're doing this study, and I'm not sure what's gonna come out of the study, we need to just get those results back, because they may talk about what areas where we need to promote parking and incentivize parking. So that's what we're waiting for, that study. Once we get that, then we can figure out what's the best way in
Plus,
terms
can
of
you
benefit.
step back, when were the rates last set?
Like
3 years prior to consolidation.
Yeah.
6 years, right?
It's about 7 years.
Oh, no.
So
Yeah.
it's going on about 7, 8 years at least. Yeah, 7
We have to do this, we're
2008.
starting going to the red in terms of revenue, based on the projection.
Right, so the argument is, I mean, it's just that, just to put a, so I think we need to put a fine point on that. It's been a long time since we've done that, and everything else has gone up and this hasn't, and it's time to revisit. Which does not mean there will not be
pain.
pain, right? I mean, that's, that the merchants will be concerned, right? And I mean, there will be people concerned about it, but it's
I
time
also,
to revisit.
yeah, I would also just have to warn too, in terms of budget assumptions, that if you go into town now, it's not hard to find a parking space.
Yeah.
At all, ever, anymore. And so I think it's just, there's a lot of vacancies, and so we can't assume there's the same level of parking that there was before.
Mm.
And we do have to be careful that
Oh, in
we're
terms of
not,
modeling the
Demand.
And that's what the study will
Yeah,
help, the study will definitely help on that.
we have to be really careful that we're not
Oh.
trying to raise more money from fewer people and driving more people outside of town.
Right.
I think we have to be really careful.
It's not.
But I
it's not
asked,
golden
because
egg.
you're not including the fines are going
No, we're
Okay.
talking meters
That's what
and
I'm
garage.
Okay.
But we are talking about the garage, and one thing that we talked about was the library, the free parking at the library,
The
the
12,
garage, and that's $100,000. And how many library employees, I think, have dedicated spots,
Yeah.
right?
That
So-
we pay for?
We provide, yes, so
We-
they're.
We don't pay for it, but we provide it, which is.
I mean, I think those are two different issues, right? So I think the first one is the 2-hour parking, which I think we, you know, given the budget situation, we ought to be putting on the table again.
Me too, definitely.
I-
Apart from the parking study, this is just.
Well, but.
Oh, God.
the parking
Accused.
study- No, I think that's his motion.
No,
No.
we're not,
Parking
we're
study,
really
though,
discussing that.
Lance, I think you were away. The parking study should be back in late summer.
Late summer, early fall.
Right. And so we're gonna have a whole lot of parking stuff. We're
For the
hoping
fall.
that we get some clarity around what we wanna do on Lidle,
Okay.
Clay.
Good.
We're having on March 20th, is that the meeting that we're talking about parking?
The council
Yeah,
meeting,
the-
yeah.
Right.
So we as
Okay.
a council, we're gonna talk about not necessarily the rates, or fees, but part of it. I mean,
Parking issues.
parking and so
That we
I
hope
hope
to-
that we're gonna talk about policy
Every
too,
year.
you know, like what Heather's talking about, users paying.
Okay.
I think we should bake
Well,
that into
everybody-
our
Yeah.
our whole assumption about parking, because we're gonna be asking about daytime parking permits too.
So Mark, the budget that we're introducing Monday, does it make any assumptions and changes on any of these?
No, we won't, not on parking.
Okay, sorry,
That's the next year.
Okay, but.
What will be, if we make a change, just so you know, the impact would be, if we make a change, let's say sometime in the year, whatever revenues we get there, actually it won't, because it'll go into the,
Parking
it's gonna go on parking, so scratch what it is.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it'll be miscellaneous revenue, so.
It's different, but still, yeah.
And then.
That's really what I have now, really like to be input in terms of, are there other areas that we want to look back, and then we should circle back to the original question in terms of introducing the budget as it is, which is the $90 and a 2.3% increase.
But you mentioned maintenance fees, and only one place is given example, Susan Patterson, is that the only place?
And
Oh, here,
here.
and here,
Wait, so,
the maintenance fees are charging?
well, I think we should look at the whole facilities rental. Remember, we used to talk about this when we were first getting involved, that, we don't, I feel like, even apart from the cost, the public doesn't know how to rent our buildings. Like, there's no place where it says, do you wanna use this for a meeting space? And I've always thought we should try to make it more user-friendly and maybe get together with the schools. Because the schools also have space, because I know when I used to organize various things, I always was looking for, it's always hard when to look for a space, and right now with all the activism in town, I'm sure those people are also having a hard time, I just know what it's.
Are there limitations about who can use what facilities? Gene?
There are actually the limited use of the elementary schools in the evenings, but it's worth noting that they do charge, when you rent the school facility, you get baked in, there's a janitorial and maintenance fee.
So, so that's interesting, so there's another precedent for what we want.
Yeah.
But I also don't wanna make it too
And I think
onerous,
there's,
because
they
it's
have
hard.
someone on site too, so they're paying someone to stay on site during your event and clean up afterward.
I would say that the schools should model our policy versus vice versa, because I think that
It's a
it
little
creates a ton of, community, I think resentment,
Is it
yeah,
that? Why is
because
it?
it's like basically, it's impossible to, even like the Girl Scouts meet here,
Yeah.
because the schools are so unfriendly for meeting
So you
there.
could just be pushing it.
It's just like, I mean, it's like they're public facilities.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
but I
I
agree,
think it's
yeah.
like, you know,
So would you
Just-
charge anything?
no, I think we should look at it, but I wouldn't necessarily go to the school model, because I think they're so onerous that nobody uses the facilities.
Well, their problem was when.
The shorts too. the shorts.
Well, the problem they had was when they eliminated that, they took the elementaries out of, that cost a lot of, and the adult school is really the #1 after-hours user of facilities, both at JW and at PHS. And, you know, when the school board tried to raise fees there was, you can imagine that there
Yeah.
wasn't a lot of happy people from the adult school board. So, yeah, I think the library also will be bringing its rental facilities back online and its free facilities. When the second floor opens, they'll have expanded free rooms that are go at an hour at a time. But yeah, I agree with Liz. I think the schools, part of it is insurance, part of it is safety.
Safety.
Yeah, right.
And then you have to have a janitor on there.
Well, again, that's
Pay them out.
their decision,
Yeah.
and they made a policy decision that
Yeah.
you're essentially paying for the janitor's
That's right.
time while you're renting the
Sure.
facility.
But Susan, Patterson Center is a different issue because they're collecting rent, so it's
Right.
like we have both,
Right.
the worst of both. We're not
Right.
getting rent and we're paying, so.
I think it's
Usually in
helpful
terms of
just
the
to
policy-
know how much it's costing us.
Yes.
and
In terms of, we can figure that out, but in terms of policy, what we do here is we kind of do it on a case-by-case basis. Particularly this room, we try to keep open for anyone, particularly meetings, but we try not to have people where they block the meeting out, you know, this is your monthly meeting place.
Yeah.
But
We
the-
try to make this the place where you can come if you need a meeting, you can have a meeting here.
I think
What
we
we're
should-
really talking about is Susan Patterson, that's when they have parties or they're really renting it out. That's what we're talking about,
Yeah,
not
it's
necessarily
like
meeting
food and
spaces.
all that other, yeah.
Right, where it requires, usually a meeting is just a matter of, they're coming in and meeting, and then that's not a big lift for them.
And this is just not part of the budget discussion, but we don't really even have a place on our website where, like, how to use our rooms. And
Yeah,
so
I just
feel
checked
like
and you're right, so that's
It's
different.
like certain people know about it and use the rooms, but not everybody knows.
I always tell them to call the clerk's office.
Well, this could be a good project for Code for Princeton too, is to do like this community-wide, like,
creative.
yeah, like what are the churches that rent out, like what are the different requirements, what are the costs, and what are the
Yeah.
sizes, and.
Well, and Heinz
have it-
Plaza has to be
Right.
included in that as well.
Right.
Do we charge when someone wants a permit
No,
to do something?
But you end up paying up,
At
right?
Heinz
No,
Plaza?
we don't
No.
charge, a lot of that is on.
Do not charge Heinz for Heinz.
I don't think we should, I'm not.
Again, I'm not advocating
but
for it,
just-
I'm just
Well,
wondering.
how do you prioritize?
Yeah.
First come, first serve then?
Yes,
I guess, yeah, I don't know, whatever.
it is first come, first served.
Do we ever have competing demand?
Yes.
And do you need to be a resident or show a Princeton connection to get this room? So that's,
Oh, to get this room?
Well, that's kind of
Maybe you
what Rec is working on the fields too. Use of the fields is how you prioritize who are our real community partners.
Yeah.
How many
Right.
people are real residents who are using it versus.
So something to develop a
Teams
policy.
with a
It's
bunch
right
of
there.
outside.
I think that would be great, develop a policy, and
But
And
you
I
ought
think it
to
should
talk to
be
Rep, because they've already
residents.
Yeah.
thought about it a lot.
And the library also has a policy about room rentals.
Prioritizing.
Yeah.
Because Monument Hall
So
has
there's-
a couple rooms too that people could be using.
Which
Yeah,
they
there is
do.
a-
They do.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I feel, yeah,
Only people who know about it.
right.
Okay.
That's the lesson.
Cells, right?
And then
For what?
should we come